Radio, Cayman.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on this truly terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today, as we invite you to start things off with us. We're going to talk about Cara. No, it's not your friend, your cousin, your niece, or otherwise, but it's the, an acronym that represents the Cayman Attorneys Regulation Authority. Want to tell you more about it? Well, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us as we invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. Certainly, pay attention, get informed, become involved. And as we welcome to our studio, Ms. Claire Gall together with Mr. Hugo Lodge. And certainly it's a pleasure to understand more about Cara and to see the, sort of the evolution within our legal fraternity, but how Cayman is continually being positioned and perceived on the world stage, as it were. So, with great deference to Ms. Gall, perhaps, Hugo, good afternoon to you. And in opening salvos?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. It's great to be here. And I think the most important thing to say really is it's about time that attorneys on island, we did our bit. And what we have to do for the greater good standing of the island is to tell everyone we know who's an attorney that all of the firms of attorneys and all of the sole practitioners, they all have to register before the end of this month. And that's part of the bigger picture, really. So I'm sure you want to talk about it. I know Claire's very clued up on the international picture and how we fit in.
Indeed. Well, Ms. Claire, welcome. And hopefully this maiden voyage will lead you to want to return more and more to involve and inform our listening public.
Yes, pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's my first time on radio and first time to Cayman, so very exciting. Looking forward to taking up the position of Head of Supervision at Cara in due course. So I'm just here this week in a sort of informal observational capacity, and then I'll take up the post officially sort of late September, early October. Okay.
And as we get more to talk about Cara, what it is and how it came about, and so that people get a perspective as to what it is. One of the things that we want to ask, though, is this only for lawyers, and someone's listening and say, well, I'm an accountant, or I'm a plumber. Much more important, I'm a plumber. How does this affect me? Should I be concerned? Tell us about it, Hugo.
Well, basically, everybody's got responsibilities to watch out for money laundering, and for people who think about that, they probably understand that money laundering is when someone who makes money through crime makes that money clean, so finds a way of buying a very expensive item of jewellery with money that they got from doing something wrong, and then you sell the item of jewellery and you've got clean money, so you've got away with your crime. So people understand money laundering, and of course, therefore, everyone, the plumber, everyone has responsibility to watch out for that. But there's an extra layer of regulation for professionals, and as the term is, for designated non-financial bodies and professions. So the nearest example might be a jewellery shop. They're in the same position as an accountant's firm or lawyers, and they are designated non-financial bodies. So they have extra responsibility because on island and everywhere else, they are the kind of people who you might go to if you did want to launder your money. So you see, no one's saying that attorneys or accountants are doing anything wrong, but it's just that they may be vulnerable to people who do want to take advantage of them. So that's the other side of it, and that's really the professional regulation side of it.
So element of protecting our reputation as well, to making sure the jewelry shop, the pawnbroker, the real estate developer, agent, and the like could equally be vulnerable as well.
Absolutely, that's right, yeah.
All right. Now, when we look at the notion of, you've always heard it early on, the regulations that are coming out of the OECD, the Financial Action Task Force, even the Caribbean component of it, the US sort of getting into it and say, well, how do we do this? The global picture, and then Cayman's role, Ms. Claire. How do we make sure that through this registration and through the regulations that our attorneys in particular are not only compliant, but making sure that our jurisdiction still stands high as it has?
Sure. I mean, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, that sets international standards. So it's, an international sets that across the board. So the UK, which I'm familiar with, where I currently work, lawyers, the legal profession is supervised for anti-money laundering and has been for a considerable period of time now. So I think it's well recognised that that is what they want to extend internationally. I mean, American time may well have to consider this. They push back a lot, not wanting to regulate their attorneys. Canada is very similar, but Australia is seeing that they're looking at regulating their lawyers and their accountants. So it's recognised, as Hugo said, where there's professional services. These are gatekeepers to our financial networks. They are there really as defenders, I guess, to ensure to prevent money laundering as much as possible. So I think it's quite right that CFATF have looked at this and said actually there's a loophole here, there's a weakness. You need to look at ensuring that your legal professional here and your accountants have got strong, robust anti-money laundering compliance frameworks in place. And that's what it's all about, effectively, is preventative and mitigation measures to ensure that, crime doesn't pay.
And then from the perspective of that sort of global perspective, then when we look at the Cayman jurisdiction relative to some of the other competing jurisdictions or even those on shore, that we will be positioned in such a way that we're looked at more favourably and not necessarily suspect.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the aim is to apply these international standards fairly across the piece. And it's not right to think that Cayman has been singled out by the international community, because there is a sequence to this. So as Claire was saying, the mutual evaluation report, as it's called, that happened on the United Kingdom last year. It just so happens it's Cayman's turn this time. So we haven't been singled out there. But what we want to do is to pull together and make sure that we respond positively. So if, for example, CFATF, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, identified something that it regarded as something that could be improved, which is to have a regulator like CARA, you'll actually find that the attorneys on island, and we had a very good town hall meeting last evening, very well attended, with people who were curious to know what this was, and we were there to answer questions. And there's been a very positive response on island to the CFATF report and amongst attorneys. So it really is back to that key message, which is that everybody who knows an attorney should go up to them and say, right, do your bit. You've got to register by the end of the month.
And that's all attorneys?
So, every firm of attorneys, and that includes sole practitioners. So we're not saying that everyone who is an attorney has to go on a register, but your firm does, and if your firm is you, then you do.
Okay, so if you work in, just for absolute clarity, if you're one of 100 lawyers in firm A, stationed somewhere in East End, I don't think there's any lawyers out there, they're practicing, your firm, if it's called A firm, that is registered, but not the individual attorneys within the firm.
That's absolutely right. But obviously, if you are just one attorney on your own, then you do register.
Then if you're,
that's right.
John Ebanks, attorney at law, then you're registered.
Excellent, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said it many times, but just for absolute clarity.
No, thank you.
Now, with that as well, from this perspective of looking at Cayman presently, without CARA being sort of on the books, how are we perceived? We read the international media, we hear some of the things, not just during the U.S. presidential election. And Cayman seems to be looked at sometimes not in the same way that we look at it here.
Well, and I think there's a particular film, for example, which you can't remember the name of it now.
The Flintstones, I think it was.
Right. And there are cliches. To be fair, there are cliches out there in the international community. But there's a very powerful and strong message that Cayman has got, which is that we've got a government here who has a very high-level political engagement to responding well to this international questions that come. And they don't come for any reason. They come in the natural cycle of these mutual evaluations. And then the other thing we've got is we've got fantastic talent. We've got law firms and accountancy firms and other people here who just attract the best local people and also the best people from further away. So actually, for a relatively small country, there is a lot of talent and a lot of ability here, and we've got a really strong message to tell, albeit that there may be cliches swirling around there, but cliches are not true.
Sometimes, but I guess if we don't respond and challenge and make it, the necessary corrections, they may be repeated without necessarily being accepted as fact, right? All right. When we come back for this quick break, maybe we can delve back into it, remind us what is Cara, what is Silva, and perhaps revert to some of the reasons why it has come about. For those who will just be joining us, well, when we come back, we'll tell you more. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Parents, do you know what time it is? It's the most wonderful time of the year. But it's not Christmas time. But school is nearly back in session. Is your child ready for the school year? Stop by Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village and pick up all of your child's stationery supplies. With 30% off selected items, you won't need to break the bank to get your little one prepared for the school year. You have enough to worry about. Make back to school a breeze with Savannah Pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
Have you ever felt that there is something bigger out there for you? Something more positive, something more powerful, something all good, something bigger than yourself? Do you want to give back to this community? Your community? Together, Rotary Central, Rotary Sunrise, and the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman are hosting a membership meet and greet social Thursday, August 15th at Pepper's Restaurant, 5 to 7 p.m. Come along. Bring a friend. Find out what Rotary is all about, what Rotary is doing in your community. So, see you there, Thursday, August 15th at Pepper's Restaurant, 5 to 7 p.m. We're looking forward to meeting you. Rotary, connecting the world. Wednesday, August 21 at 4 p.m. You are invited to the grand opening of the new Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center on Seymour Drive. New opportunity, new beginnings, new home for Caymanian youth seeking career training and certification in high-demand trades like automotive repairs, air conditioning, refrigeration, plumbing, electrical, metal fabrication, and more. Come witness, celebrate the cutting of the ribbon. At 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon, August 21, another milestone. The Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center, a not-for-profit program successfully training and creating employment alignment since 2010. Purpose and fulfillment.
Did you know that once properly sanitized, some tinned food items may still be safe for consumption after coming in contact with floodwater? In order to properly sanitize these tins, always remove labels, and then wash tins in a strong detergent solution using a brush to get rid of excess impurities. Tins must then be immersed in a solution made of 2 tablespoons of chlorine bleach per gallon of water for 10 minutes. Ensure that containers are air-dried before opening. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit the DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us as we have an opportunity to continue our discussion both with Claire Kyle and Mr. Hugo Lodge, the idea of self-regulation and of attorneys regulating themselves. Hugo?
Yeah. So I think people will understand the advantages to saying to a professional group or for example, to jewelers, that would be another example. But people who come within these regulations, to saying to them that they are very well placed to understand their own profession and their own industry. And they'll have the background, the knowledge, and they'll know where to look for problems and where to look for risk. So there are very powerful arguments in favour of self-regulation. Now, the obvious criticism is that you're marking your own homework. So I think what's essential there is to make sure that you have an independence built into these self-regulatory models. And I think perhaps Claire might want to come in there because she is she is going to be the professional who is not the attorney, but working for CARA.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's often flagged up there's potentially this inherent conflict of interest within a self-regulatory organisation. As Hugo says, this argument that you're protecting your own, you're going to act in the best interest of your members at all times. So certainly in the setup of SILPA and CARA, that's recognised. So we have CARA as the independent regulatory arm of SILPA. So this then addresses that potential conflict of interest, that actually the regulatory body will be acting in the public interest, whereas SILPA is there as a professional body arm, advocacy and representing its members. So we've got a clear sort of distinction to address that potential inherent conflict.
So as we hear the word regulation, authority, and we think monetary authority, some statutory authority. For those who are listening, for clarity, this CAR, the Cayman Attorneys Regulation Authority, is it one, sanctioned by law? Is it somehow its teeth in legislation and the like, or is it just a body?
Yeah, so as a matter of law, and these are really good questions and absolutely spot on. As a matter of law, it's the SILPA, the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, who are the listed body, if you like, the legal person that has the responsibility, as you say, under law, to be the supervisor of attorneys. And yes, part of supervision is guidance, and part of it is then actively supervising and helping. But there is a stick there at the end of it, which is very strong financial penalties. So in the same way you've mentioned SEMA, another authority, they have administrative fines powers, and SILPA, CARA, also has the same fining powers. So they're on the same footing. It's just that it's a bit further away from government. It's more self-regulation. But yeah, to answer your question, it's SILPA that's the legal person. But then within that, and there are very good international examples where this has happened as well. For example, the United Kingdom, where the legal person that's named in the laws having the power, then delegates it. So in this case, you've got SILPA who are there to represent the best interests of attorneys, saying that they will have, as Claire was saying earlier, a board within it, but which has independent governance, has a separate board, and no one person can be both organising SILPA and organising CARA. And then, of course, the most important thing of all is we're going to bring a professional on board, in Claire, with the regulatory experience that she's got from the United Kingdom. And I know she doesn't mind me saying it, she's very tough and very fair. And I've used the example because she used to be a police officer, but she's now a vegan. So she must be tough and she must be fair.
Well, she's vegan, so we have to wonder.
Right, so that means she's fair.
That's just put the entire listening population to this radio station off me at this point.
Principle.
Well, vegan is chocolate, so it's okay. They're good people.
This is true.
And they're healthy. No, maybe one day they'll come back and in a different hat, talk about lifestyle choices relative to that. Make a note while you're here.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to come back and talk about veganism.
Thank you for that.
Good colour.
Exactly. I have to think about my own health as well, and what is. But let's not get too far afield. As long as we can eat chocolate, it's all good. Now, with the regulation and supervision and the sanctioning, as it were, and making sure that there is this, Hugo used the word the stick at the end, but maybe not so much as often. Tell us the composition of CARA, how many members, how it's going to be comprised, what sort of procedures and protocols will be in place in order to ensure that people follow the legislation, and how complaints, if any, from the sector will be handled.
Excellent questions. It's very much sort of work in progress at the moment. So we certainly will have a executive board in place, and those members are to be confirmed, but that's well underway. As I say, I'll be joining as head of supervision for CARA. So I'll have full oversight of the firms applying a risk-based approach and assessing or supervising and monitoring firms' compliance with the anti-money laundering regulations and counter-terrorism financing. Then we'll be having a head of enforcement because, as Hugo says, there's that element of, well, what do we do when we see there's non-compliance with the regulations? There needs to be credible sanctions in place to say there is an effect, there is an impact of not complying with these regulations. So as much as there'll be guidance and to get people where they need to be, there will come a point when, enforcement action needs to be taken, and there'll be, a range of enforcement action, depending on the seriousness of the breach. And then we will also look at an important part, which is intelligence and information sharing. So we'll have a person on board to look at liaison with other supervisors, statutory authorities, the police, etc., because again, this is all about sharing sort of key intelligence and information around anti-money laundering, which is crucial.
Now, with that in mind, when we look at the whole issue of the sort of supervision and you're regulating audit almost to an extent, a firm, what would trigger one Cara going into firm A and saying, we just want to check, or is it a process where you have a list of all the firms and every so often you do a test, or maybe you start in firm A and end with firm Z throughout a 2-year period? How do you check compliance?
So, in accordance with sort of FATF best practice, we will apply a risk-based approach because clearly we only have a certain amount of resources and we want to focus that resource where the highest risks are. So, say that's part and parcel of having this registration form. As well as just registering the sort of details of your firm, there'll also be questions there around what kind of activities, legal services do you offer, types of clients you engage with, jurisdictions that they operate in, etc., to inform that risk-based approach. And then we can position those firms, those that are highest risk, sort of medium risk, low risk, and the focus initially will be on those highest risk firms. So people tend to think of high risk as a very negative term, but really it's just there to recognise that you offer those services that are potentially very attractive to criminals should they want to launder their funds, etc. So it's just really your vulnerabilities by offering those services, and just to ensure that those firms have good mitigation controls, policies, procedures and controls in place to address those vulnerabilities.
And I appreciate you sharing that the high risk, low risk doesn't mean that a high risk one is negatively...
or a given, if you're high risk, you're automatically engaging in money laundering. No, that's...
So for the listening public that would say firm A, they've been designated or seen as high risk, it would be the type of work that they do that would quantify them, the type of clients, that maybe the markets that they're in.
Yeah, that can certainly be one aspect of it. And it's not that you can't engage in those activities. It's just to those firms to recognise as vulnerabilities by offering those activities, but having strong mitigation controls in place that you can work in this area quite safely and not become vulnerable to money laundering.
What sort of things that would categorise a firm potentially being in a high risk versus a lower risk from your assessment?
As I say, it depends on certain categories. So FATF are very strong on this. They'll highlight you need to look at the clients that you engage, so high net worth individuals, politically exposed persons, those public officials that potentially can be exposed to sort of bribery and corruption type elements. It could be the nature of the geography. Do they operate in jurisdictions that perhaps don't have particularly good AML compliance? And delivery channels can be another aspect. If you're seeing somebody face to face, whether you're reliant on third parties, intermediaries, etc. So it's just really understanding the client that you're dealing with, the nature of the activity, and just assessing that risk where your kind of potential exposures lie that you're dealing with effectively.
Okay. Well, when we come back from the break, can we ask questions including sort of sanctions and fines and like for non-compliance? Could we also ask membership of SILPA, what does that entail? Is there an annual subscription and the like? All right. When we come back, we'll ask you to rejoin us. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Come out to the South Coast Bar and Grill this Friday, August 16th for the second annual Cayman Night. There will be live music by Rex and the Band, Bonafide, Wild Nice, Lame, DJ Blue, and DJ Archie of Unit Force. Also featuring Rena Connolly, Philip and Molly Ann Bryan, Andy Martin, and special appearances by Swanky. Music starts at 9 p.m. and goes until 2 a.m. Admission is donations to assist Stan Ebanks with medical expenses, so don't miss the second annual Cayman Night at South Coast Bar and Grill this Friday, August 16th from 9 p.m. until 2 a.m. with Cayman's top musicians and admission by donation. See you there.
Stay up to date with the latest in healthy living and fitness trends every Saturday morning at 9:30 and Wednesday at 7 p.m. For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Most clinics in the United States, they kind of like one surgery fits all. You're saying, that's not necessary. That's not going to be the case with me. And that's good to hear.
For the Health of It is proudly brought to you by GNC. Join the GNC community and take advantage of their discount days. The first 7 business days of every month and every Wednesday. GNC. Believe in the power of nutrition.
Steve Higgins Productions, in association with the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens,
the Cayman Islands Cancer Society,
and the De Silva Family Trust presents
Music of the Heart. A fantastic evening of excellent music presented by Delia Winter,
April Marr,
and Steve Higgins at the Marriott Beach Resort, 7 Mile Beach, Sunday, September 1st, 2019 at 6 p.m. Sponsored by
Harney's,
Applebee,
SMP,
NCB Capital Markets,
Jamaica Tourist Board,
and Radio Cayman. Tickets $25.
Available at Funky Tank,
Super Stitch, or any member of the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens, or call
925-9134.
That's 925-9134. Proceeds will go towards the Cayman Islands Cancer Society and the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. That's Steve Higgins and Friends in Music of the Heart. Sunday, September 1st at the Marriott Beach Resort. Don't miss it!
My good friend Ray.
Yes, sir. We're ready for another See What Saying. We're having Willa Farrington again, better known as Mr. Willa Farrington to us. He's one of the national heroes, and he's also a road.
Willa Farrington Drive.
Willa Farrington Drive, yeah.
Mr. Willa Farrington.
The Honorable National Hero, Willa Farrington. Okay, so join us this Friday, August the 16th, when we finish up a ride down Willa Farrington Lane. Or drive. Don't matter. We're not going to use our trafficators anyway, so.
See What I'm Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
So yeah, another character for See What I'm Saying. This Friday, August the 16th, we finish up with Willa Farrington Drive.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974.
See what I say?
See what I say?
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us as we continue our discussion. Claire Guile and Hugo Lodge. We're talking about Cara. Yes, if your name is Cara, we're not talking about you specifically. But we might. I mean, Hugo, you feel like talking about Cara? We could.
Maybe one Cara.
One Cara, right. They came on and turned as regulation authority as part of SILPA. And that's the Cayman's Legal Practitioners Association. Now, just for clarity, maybe my edification, SILPA, now is that what was the Cayman Bar Association and the Law Society?
Yeah, that's right. So they've combined and they've just had elections, and David Collins is the leader and president of SILPA. Yeah, that's right, the president, Il Presidente. Mm-hmm. So there's continuity there of people at the top of both those previous associations came together very amicably and then had elections just to make sure it was all legitimate, and a very high turnout, and we're a very happy and united profession. I think that came across yesterday at the town hall we had when people came along with different points of views, many people sole practitioners and others from bigger firms, and express their views, and all want to come together now and do the best for the island.
All right. Now, a couple of things. If I'm a firm of attorneys, 100, or I'm a firm of just the sole practitioner, to be a member of SILPA, do we pay fees, and how does that work?
Yeah, so at the moment, attorneys pay fees into the court. Mm-hmm. So that's a situation that you don't really get if you look at other international pictures. And I think it's important that with self-regulation comes the responsibility to make a contribution towards it. And if we just look at the figures, so there are 546 members of SILPA, and that represents about 4/5 of the profession. So pretty soon you can see that if even, say, $2,000 came from each one of the attorneys, then there would be a budget for a proper professional body to be able to run. But at the moment, as I say, it's an unusual one because attorneys pay fees into court. So we've had some very productive conversations with government, and there'll be some very productive moves in the future. But that, to answer your question, yes, attorneys will pay for their own regulation, but at a level which is affordable to them. And I think it's very important to note that bigger firms may be better placed to take some of the burden, as opposed to small sole practitioners, of course.
Right. So with that, because I know I think there was at one time it was $550 as a practicing certificate. It was paid to the courts.
Right.
That'll probably discontinue once we get on the way.
Well, I think these things are up for negotiation. I mean, as I sit here, it is an unusual thing for attorneys to pay money into a court, because you would have thought, if you just think about it, the attorneys, they appear in the court, they argue their cases in front of the court, but it is unusual, and there are not any other examples internationally of that. So I think that had to be put on a more rational footing anyway. And take the accountants, who are sort of similar profession, they pay about $4,000 a year, and the attorneys have been much, much more economical than that. Maybe the accountants are they have these lavish lifestyles. I don't know.
It's probably what it is, yeah.
They're very exciting people.
I know. You see them driving around with their convertibles.
You do.
We won't see anything.
They'll have to come on next week and tell you what they think about the attorneys.
I can see a few of them now saying, I think you're supposed to be with us tomorrow. No, but with that, though, as a newly qualified attorney, or as any maybe experienced attorney in the future, in order to practice, then you have to be a member of SILPA, as you are now, to get your practicing certificate through the courts. Would that be one of the
Well, I think that's the direction of travel. At the moment, as I say, about 80% of attorneys have chosen to sign up to SILPA, but it comes back to one of your earlier questions, which is there is a statutory power now to have SILPA as the regulator for anti-money laundering. So that's not optional. And obviously, if you couldn't get around the law by choosing not to join an association. So for those purposes, SILPA is compulsory for everybody, and that's the direction of travel. Yeah. And that makes sense. I'm sure people understand that.
You want to practice as an attorney here, this is what you have to do.
That's right.
All right. So those are the fees and sanctions and fines for a firm or attorney that isn't compliant or hasn't done what you asked of them as Cara. What would that look like?
Well, there is a range there, but I think it's important to emphasise, and perhaps we'll bring Claire back in on what are the stages you get to before you get a fine. Right. But to answer your question, there is a range of fines. So somebody who is late by a couple of weeks at getting a very important piece of paper in could still be fined several $1,000s. But somebody who was found actually helping someone money launder could be fined several $1,000s. So there's a huge range there. And again, it's not that one size of stick will fit all. But I do think it's important to say what the stages are before we would get to a fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to be considered. And say, I've got experience of that from overseeing other professional bodies back in the UK, that actually that sanctions policy is crucial. And I think, as Hugo said, it's important to have a range to recognise minor breaches from systemic, fundamental breaches that have been in place for a considerable period of time and caused harm to that firm, and obviously the harm of money laundering to the wider population. So yeah, that range can just stem from initial acknowledgement there's an issue here, but is there an action plan that can be put in place to address this, to prevent it going forward? But if it's something that's happened for a considerable period of time, the impact of that breach, that may demand something, further up that scale, which could be around reprimands, warnings, etc. And then fundamentally more serious, you're going to get into sort of fines, and the ultimate will be, removal. You can no longer practice an attorney, which, ideally we don't want to get to that stage, but a recognition that possibility is there if, certainly for those attorneys who are potentially complicit in money laundering. And I think the public would expect, nonetheless, they want to see something strict like that, we will address that if it's found.
And of course, that will all be in addition to whatever other sanctions because of some legislation that has been violated, criminal charges potentially.
Well, that's right. So there are these two different regimes that operate. As we were explaining earlier, that everybody on Ireland must comply with the criminal law. So if an attorney does something wrong, as you rightly point out, they've committed a criminal offence, and that, these things can happen in parallel and they happen at the same time. But in a way, what regulation does is it doesn't say, just don't go out there and be a criminal. It says, well, help us all watch out for potential problems. It's a system of protecting people, not against them deliberately doing something wrong, but against them being vulnerable to other people who would misuse them.
All right. Now, what about an instance where we see in Cayman, probably not unlike other sort of competing jurisdictions. The firm here has other offices in different jurisdictions, or the work may be done there of Cayman law, practicing law. Would Cara be able to extend his hand and oversight with those attorneys over there?
Well, at the moment, it's jurisdictional and it's geographical. So at the moment, Cara's remit is strictly with those on island, and attorneys in London, for example, who are practicing Cayman law are regulated, as you'd expect, by a more local regulator to them. But I think international cooperation between regulators is probably an important thing.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's where it'll be fantastic for Cayman to be on board to say we regulate our lawyers as is similar in other countries overseas, and then others will take comfort from that. That's this is a jurisdiction they want to engage with, because similarly their legal professionals are under the same obligations and good compliance as say legal professionals in the UK, for example.
Now, for the registration process, those attorneys who either aren't registered and need to, what information can you share with them? How did they go about it?
Well, first of all, they all need to. So that's the message. I'd go out there, and the next time you see an attorney, go up to them and say, do your bit. Go back to your firm and say, register before the end of the month. So, yes, we've got an online, we've got, SILPA has got its own website, so silpa.ky, and you can go on there, and there's the form on there which will be increasingly automated, and we're going to give people a bit more guidance about how to get through it. And that was the purpose of the outreach yesterday, was really to answer questions from attorneys. So we're not just throwing this form at them and saying, get on with it and do it. There's a lot of resource there to help. So, silpa.ky/resources, and you can find everything you need to know.
And is there a deadline of registration again?
It's the end of the month.
Yeah. Today's the 15th, right?
Right.
So this month is going to go fast.
Yeah.
Halfway there. What if they're not registered by the end of the month?
Well, I mean, there is a statutory power that sits behind this, and it is everyone's duty to do it. So we're going to be reasonable. We're going to listen to people. If there's a particular mitigating circumstance that means that they can't get it in by that date, they've still got to get in touch and say, look, I'm doing my best to do it, and these are the reasons. And, of course, we're here to help, and always there can be exceptional circumstances. So people will be reasonable, and I think it's important that a regulator is reasonable and proportionate. But the message needs to get out there that people got to do this, and it's only fair that attorneys do their bit. And I'm an attorney, and I'm going to make sure my firm registers.
It's like being a blood donor, right? Get registered, donate blood today.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate it, and certainly want to extend the conversation further as we invite you to come back on in the future, maybe another appeal for registration, maybe update the public, and hopefully as non-attorneys in the public who may not believe this affects us, gradually bring us more on board from the perspective of protecting our jurisdiction and its reputation. Again, welcome, Ms. Claire. Hope you enjoyed. Find being a vegan here isn't too taxing.
No, there's lots of vegan restaurants, which is very good to see. So I was pleased to see that.
All right.
Yes.
Well, when you return again, we'll talk about it.
Lovely, love to.
Final thoughts in relation to Cara and to Silpa. First, Hugo, then if Claire wants to as well.
Well, I think we've got a tremendous opportunity here to pull together as a profession and to show that we're doing our bit. It comes back to something that you were saying, for the greater good standing of Cayman, and we must all do that. It doesn't require much to fill in a form and to give some information to a regulator, because if a regulator's got knowledge, they can help people out and they can be targeted, and they don't have to knock on everyone's door. They can go to where there's a problem. So I just encourage everyone to participate, and once more, if you know an attorney, tell them to register.
We shall go find your attorney. And Claire?
Yeah, I would echo Hugo's sentiments there. I think it's crucial we all come together to create, a really robust, effective supervisory framework that's for the benefit of Cayman jurisdiction as a whole, most definitely.
Indeed, the greater good should prevail. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of the week. Find some time to rest and enjoy what we have to offer. Not just the sun, the sand, the sea, but hey, the good food, right?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Vegan food.
Okay. And chocolate. All right, we're going to pause and take a break. Pick up our headline news at 1. But when we come back, looks like there'll be open line. Well, I'll ask you to join us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Food preparation utensils are washed with a strong detergent and rinsed in hot water in the event that they have made contact with flood water. Boil silverware for 10 minutes and immerse glass, porcelain, china, and plastic items in a solution of hot water and 10% chlorine bleach before use. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's read the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher. The Breeze Fusion 5K, 10K walk run. Saturday, November 2nd.
When you talk about the Caribbean, you talk about who? Music, vibe, yo, Caribbean rhythm.
It is on Radio Cayman. It is the rhythm of the Caribbean.
This Saturday night.
Rhythm of the Caribbean.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
A traffic incident turns into an assault, leaving 2 officers with minor injuries and a Bordentown man under arrest. Yesterday morning, police heard a noise outside the Bordentown police station. They found a white Honda Civic on the road. The wheel apparently came off the car. They spoke with the driver, but when they asked the 20-year-old for identification and proof of insurance, he ran off. They caught him, but say he resisted arrest. During the incident, one officer received a broken finger, the other received minor injuries, and the suspect has lacerations on his forehead. He is now under arrest. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Gibraltar has freed an Iranian oil tanker detained last month on suspicion of sanctions busting, despite a last-minute plea by the U.S. authorities. The UK territory received written assurances from Iran that the ship would not discharge its cargo in Syria. Grace 1, carrying Iranian oil, was stopped by Royal Marines on July 4th, triggering a standoff with Tehran. Stock markets around the world have pared their losses but remain under pressure after a sell-off on Wednesday over fears of a slowing global economy. The main U.S. share indexes closed 3% lower overnight, but the benchmark Dow Jones was slightly higher today. This was despite a warning from China that it would take new countermeasures against U.S. trade tariffs. And Britain's Jess Lermont and Georgia Taylor Brown were disqualified from the World Triathlon Olympic qualification event in Tokyo after crossing the finish line hand in hand. A photo finish initially gave 31-year-old Lermont victory, but the pair were later deemed to have broken a race rule. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. As we invite you to be a part of our discussion, it's going to be some open line. And want to know what is on your mind? What is it you want to talk about? 949-8037, 949-6990. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. As we get into our discussion, just a quick reminder on behalf of the Cayman Attorneys Regulation Authority, CARA, as Hugo Lodge shared earlier. If you're a practicing attorney, you and or your firm got it till the end of the month to get registered. So silpa.ky, and you can find information there. Now, you may say, well, I'm not a lawyer, that doesn't affect you, but maybe you know someone. And as we pay more attention to the things that are sort of unfolding in the society, perhaps we'll be positioned with a level of information that we can have a discussion. As was relayed eventually, those fees that are paid to the courts for the attorneys to get their practicing certificates, well, they'll go into the regulation fund for supervision. Anyway, always fun to learn, always good to listen. 949-8037, 949-6990. And certainly want you to be a part of a discussion. Would like, if I may, on behalf of Mr. Patrick Schmid, as you heard yesterday, a councillor and MLA Austin Harris was relaying this sort of sentiments expressed by Patrick's father in relation to work and his responsiveness to his son's application. And just for clarity, not necessarily for back and forth, Mr. Harris had sort of conveyed that information was that young Mr. Schmid had indeed applied and had been given a response contrary to what may have been shared prior. But Patrick now has responded, and I think he got not just fairness to him, but deference equally. He said that he was writing to clarify his position with respect to the response that was provided by Mr. Harris. Said that he had applied for two separate positions, one being the manager for labor force operations and the other being the director for business operations. And he had either response to the former one, but he got a response for the latter, but not a response to the former. And he felt that it was sort of not fully accurate that he had received it. And I think this is sometimes what is challenging when we look at government entities, but equally not just government entities, but as the new jobs portal that work is putting in place, that all applicants will be required to not only get a response, but to get feedback with respect to why they weren't shortlisted or why they weren't interviewed, why they weren't considered for a particular job. Now, following a discussion yesterday, a number have asked as well, if we have this sort of, and I use the word a clearinghouse, this sort of centralized registry, repository, as it were, of jobs, then you can go, you can check, you're looking for a job, you want to get into hospitality, maybe it'll be categorized in the different areas. And as long as one fellow indicated, that is going to be enforced. You're not going to be given a work permit unless you are registered, and it's going to be properly vetted. Now, his concern was, how do you make sure that this is happening, that there's this compliance, there's a resource for enforcement, but likewise, that companies, when they hire someone, it isn't a token appointment, it isn't with intent to create an environment that eventually leads to the person sort of resigning and saying, I can't work here anymore. You're making it such that you really don't want me. How do you force someone to hire someone when they don't really intend on keeping that person on? The other thing is that when they were sharing, increasingly, she says, when it comes to employment, this notion that we have such a high percentage of people who are unemployed, she thought that's quite strange when we have so many people on a work permit. Not that there aren't skill sets and experience and certain expertise that we need, that perhaps these people on a permit would need to possess in order to get the employment. But surely it can't just be that these individuals don't want to work. If that is the case, and certainly has been what has been alleged so often, then we need to make sure that we look at that sort of ethos within our society. if it's that the training and the skill sets, the work ethic is, as some have questioned, then we need to look at that, not things that are going to be easily changed. But if they're not acknowledged, if measures aren't put in place to address it, how is it ever going to be improved? But he also shared that sometimes there are even worse consequences where people, and as was related to us, the lady shared it happened to her. She had an opportunity to take another position within her organization by having sort of an insight into the work. She also had a fairly good understanding of what the pay and the benefits that were being offered to the present applicant, the sort of post holder, and she thought, well, those were the things that were attractive. Now, when she applied and it was offered to her, just as an example, she said if the person was being paid $1,000, she was being offered, $500. If the person was, given a car, well, she wasn't even offered a bicycle. If the person was given gas allowance, she was. So there were so many discrepancies that had she taken the job, not only would it have been, in the end, a lot more work for very, very little more pay, there weren't the corresponding sort of level of responsibilities and remunerations and the like that were in the post. And it appeared to her that either the company didn't want her to get that particular post, or if she took it and did the job, would she be able to keep up with it, given that at the end it didn't really worth her taking on that much more responsibility without any sort of level of increased authority, or more so the pay and the perks that came with the post. But she shared, if she said no, then they said, well, you don't want it. Well, I understand that she declined the position, and she said when she made sort of a situation known to what was then the immigration board, understanding that this was the offer that was being presented to others, some of the members there just looked and sort of laughed, didn't see the importance of fairness. One person on a permit being paid significantly more, presumably similarly qualified and experienced. Now, we want to ensure that those who live and work here are treated fairly. Certainly, companies should be able to seek and recruit, hire, and retain the best talent. But if the employment prospects, if our young people, as we've heard from recently, a number of individuals who have expressed concern that either as teachers or as parents, or sometimes just serving as mentors or taking on students during the summers as interns, a lot of the students are saying they're not sure when they're going to remain in Cayman, or when they leave for university they'll find employment. Now, it's not just the adventure, it's not just the experience, is that they're not, as the students have relayed, feeling as if there are many, viable prospects for them to remain in the country. They're not going to find employment despite their education. They're not going to be able to find employment despite their willingness to work. If they do, they won't find a requisite level of pay so that they can live in a jurisdiction that seemingly requires a certain level of income in order to maintain a certain standard of living. Now, if that is a concern, how are we going to address that? We certainly would love for our students to travel the world, not any different than the forefathers did when they were seafarers, but we want them to return. Some of those same seafarers, they stayed overseas and made their lives there, whether it was in the U.S. or even in some of the Nordic countries. So when we come back, this issue of employment, the prospects of our students not just getting the requisite education, but feeling that there is an opportunity for them either after high school, certainly after university. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Invite you to be a part of the discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Hi, I am 23-year-old Francine Wright, contestant number 5, representing the beautiful and vibrant district of Georgetown. I am a huge foodie that loves to travel, meet people from different cultures, and try new foods. I'm very family-oriented, with my idea of a good time being at the beach or around the pool with the ones I love. I'm passionate about community service and helping those around me. I hope to see you all on the night one of us is crowned the new Miss Cayman Islands Universe 2019. Be there on Saturday, the 17th of August at the Ritz-Carlton.
Wednesday, August 21 at 4 p.m. You are invited to the grand opening of the new Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center on Seymour Drive. New opportunity, new beginnings, new home for Caymanian youth seeking career training and certification in high-demand trades like automotive repairs, air conditioning, refrigeration, plumbing, electrical, metal fabrication, and more. Come witness, celebrate the cutting of the ribbon. At 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon, August 21, another milestone. The Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center, a not-for-profit program successfully training and creating employment alignment since 2010. Purpose and fulfillment.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. It's open line as we invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 949-8037, or 949-6990. Likewise, you can call us toll free with accompaniments of flow, 1-800-534-8255, 1-800-534-8255. That's the flow toll free call if you wish to make. Now, just quickly during the break, someone sent through a message, and as I listened to what was shared, the person was asking, with the now announced government's intent to step up its campaign to ensure that his, supporters are out en masse to ensure that if there is a referendum vote, that it goes in favor of the government. And the question was asked, well, is this sort of anti-democratic? The government isn't campaigning to get elected, it's campaigning for a project. I want to share some thoughts on that, but let's go to this caller. Okay, welcome, good afternoon, thanks for calling.
Dwayne, number 1, you Kingston.
How are you, sir?
I'm in pain, but I'm listening to you.
Well, I hope that pain doesn't last long and isn't too severe.
Well, I would like to sell it half price.
Well, I'll tell you what, boy, if you could take it from me, we would,
I bet you wouldn't.
Well, I wouldn't, but I'd find somebody I could give it to.
I know you would. I know you wouldn't.
Yeah, well, at least I'm honest.
The first thing you're going to say, look here, take a little more, man.
No, man, I mean, no. I know you're strong, you can handle it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Everybody thinks that. We're not gone, we're going to say too late.
Too late, huh? Oh, yeah. Man. Well, you got it, man. You got it.
Anyway.
Yes, sir.
I just called about 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what is happening to this TV station up here. The government channel, when they turn that on, all you hear is brrrr, like something is just blowing up. Channel 14 is gone. Channel 15 is gone. 16, 17. Loving Savior. Man, I don't know what's going on in this place, man. They soon not have no channels.
Well, hopefully someone from the television station can monitor. Sometimes it's little interruptions. The government channel might be just because that's the program in the politics. It might be a recording of the Legislative Assembly. Oh, I'm just kidding, man. That's going to be hard to live down that one down today. But I'll see if I can ask a friend to ask someone to see if it's just maybe some of the technical glitch, and hopefully can get it resolved.
You promise that?
I promise I will ask him to ask them, because I think he has some I think he's a customer, or he knows the number. So I will inquire for you as well.
Yes, all right. Don't send me no bill, though. So you're going to send a bill, send it to Arlen.
No. All I'm going to say is that a caller from the BRAC, shared that some of the channels, including the government channels, 16 and 15 and 14 in particular, the reception isn't good or isn't working. And they might be able to, it might just be a button they need to press. Maybe they need to send the cable back over on a new catboat. I'm not sure.
Man, they need to get this thing going over here, man. Yeah. Every minute the channel is going out. Yeah. And when you go up the station, I don't want to go say nothing wrong up there, okay?
Right. Well, no.
I'm trying to keep my peace because I've given my soul to God.
Well, that's a good thing to do. But you can still share your frustrations and sentiments in a way that conveys that you're frustrated, but still be very respectful.
All right, Reverend. Sorry. And one more thing is
yes, sir.
Cayman Island government, Minister of Health, I hope you listen to me, because I didn't know what your name is. Don't tell me, because I'm not going to say.
Okay.
At Faith Hospital, Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
They need wheelchairs. What they got there, they might have one or two good ones. The rest of them don't have no foot stand, or the other ones, the foot stand is gone. I was up in there some weeks ago. I had to take my hands and hold up my 2 feet for them to carry me down to the X-ray.
Oh, okay, well, so wheelchairs on the BRAC at the Faith Hospital. All right, well, it's probably just an unfortunate incident, but that one should be easy to resolve. Huh?
Stop finding an excuse for them. I said, Minister of Health, do your job. Kotevitz, Alden, Juliana, get some wheelchairs up at Faith Hospital. Some days ago, sitting down in the where you go outpatient, you go wait.
Yes, sir.
Somebody was calling for a wheelchair outside for somebody. They said, tell them, hold on, we're bringing somebody out now so we can put them in the car they're going. Come on, man.
All right, well, that one we can ask one or two people to address. It may be that there is one or two here that could be carried over. There may be one or two companies here that provide those that could donate. There may be a service club or an individual. But certainly I agree with you that the government, should ensure that its health of its people, its resources like that are continually monitored and given a priority. So.
Yeah, it's not a matter that I'm running the government down. I'm just talking facts.
No, you are, if I may say, as a customer, has gone to a business, recognize that there's a deficiency in one area, and you think if addressed, it will make it better for others. So perhaps as early as this evening on the Cayman Airways flight, there could be 2 wheelchairs set up, and by tomorrow it'll be at the hospital. I mean, that would be nice, huh?
Well, okay, I hope they come in tonight.
All right, well, we'll ask. We'll ask.
I will call you back tomorrow,
Would you please? I'm actually looking at somebody now who can actually make a call to have that issue addressed and at least inquire about it. So we can do that.
Yeah, Minister of Health, I hope you're listening. Mose, Arlen, Juliana, I hope all 4 are listening to me. Because I'm not running you down, I'm just talking facts.
Well, it's important that the public understands, what it is that the public has been affected. And as a citizen of this country, I think you have a right to share your concerns, and you do so in the most candid way. So thanks.
Okay, so well, anyway, you just behave yourself, okay?
Well, I can promise I will try. I don't know if I'll be successful.
I know. That's all I ever hear from you, but I promise I keep.
All right, well, you be good, sir.
Thank you for your time and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, too, for
right.
enjoy your afternoon. All right, 949-8037. We'll go to the other line. Welcome, you're on Talk Today.
Hey, good afternoon, Dwayne. Peter Schmidt here.
Captain Schmidt, good afternoon, sir. I just mentioned your name, so thank you.
Actually, I was driving at the time and I heard you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did see Patrick did send me an email on that as well.
Yes, sir.
So he cleared me up. But a couple things now that I just want to briefly mention. You know, the problem with wheelchairs at the hospital, at Grand Cayman, at the Georgetown Hospital, same way, is that they have wheels. And they seem to be rolling off the hospital compound. All by themselves.
Wow. No,
yeah. Because some time ago, the Rotary Club I'm a member of, Rotary Central, donated a significant amount of wheelchairs to the Georgetown Hospital. If you go back now, you're lucky if you find one of them.
No, I don't. I'm actually going to ask you. We're sharing other people in our society are helping themselves to these wheelchairs. Stealing them. I mean, can I say it that way? Taking them without, returning them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, take as an example the grocery carts from supermarkets.
Yeah.
You find any part of the island, you don't see any of them. And yet people ought to realize that we're paying for them.
Yeah.
It's a cost of doing business for the supermarket. They will have to replace them when they don't have enough carts for their customers, and naturally that will be factored into the cost of the product that they sell.
That there is that physical cost, then there is the potential damage that cart may cause, and so the supermarket may, may be held liable. But as you said that, there's a friend, and he's challenged a couple of us, I guess, for a while now. When we go to the supermarket, very, very deliberately and very consciously take your cart back to the spot that the cart is supposed to go. And it's an honor system. So he's asked us, when you do it, how many of us have always done it since the challenge has begun?
Yeah.
Surprisingly, most of us were like, yeah, we do it all the time, to only realize that we didn't. And I'm thinking, have we become that complacent and that sort of selfish?
Yeah.
So the wheelchairs are moving there off, just like this thing.
Yeah, and then the next thing. Let's get on to the next thing.
Right.
With what you were talking about earlier about Caymanians and employment. It's a picture. It's a situation with many sides to it. I might have told you that I have recently been doing some work which involved examining a lot of applicants for positions, relatively low-level positions, entry-level positions, for an organization here on the island, statutory authority, no less. Okay.
Right.
And the point for me saying that is that it has given me an opportunity to see a lot of applications from young Caymanians and not so young Caymanians, and of course expatriates as well, but it being a statutory authority, as long as you have Caymanian or people that are permitted to work without a work permit in the Cayman Islands, as long as you have applicants of that nature, you will not even look at expatriate applicants. And some of them call you, and I was a temp employee, and so I had a little more leeway in that regard than maybe a regular HR person that would be very, very busy. And I would tell the people, I said to them, I'm sorry, but you are not a person that can work unrestricted in the Cayman Islands. Consequently, the organization has a mandate to hire Caymanians and people that are legally permitted to work without restrictions. And Almost without exceptions, I can say that most of the expatriate applicants understood that.
Mm-hmm.
But so, number one, one of the problems that I see with employment of Caymanians is that no matter what someone's excuse is, whether it is an applicant's excuse for not doing something or whether it is a potential employer's excuse for not doing something, there is enough examples to back any one of those explanations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are lots of employers or lots of situations where potential applicants are ignored or for disqualified for reasons that would not stand up to scrutiny. Would somebody carry it to a process, a legal process? But on the other hand, there are lots of Caymanian applicants that are seemingly reluctant to read an advert properly and see what the advert is asking for and what it takes to apply. And if it says that you should apply by filling out the standard application form, then that's what it means, because the standard application form will ask some questions which are potentially not on your resume. And so sending in your resume is not enough. You are, and then again, the chief of HR or the statutory authority that I was working for would lean over backwards to try and hire Caymanians.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell me, to call the people back, call this applicant and tell him or her and say this, that, or that is missing. If you can supply us with that information, it puts you in a better position to be considered. And I think that step is a little bit more than many, certainly in the private sector, can or will do. Everything in the private sector, everything is profit motivated, and consequently, HR departments are often staffed minimally or part-time only, and so they don't have the luxury of doing customized service to all applicants.
All right.
But like I said, with the statutory authority, the fact is that there is a mandate to hire Caymanians, and so you are expected to do everything you can to not miss a potential candidate, right? But then, so you have that issue, and then the next issue is, which I'm going outside that part, that department I was speaking of. If some people that do get hired, and many people will apply for a position below their level of experience, if that's what it takes to get their foot in the door,
right,
in the hope of working themselves up. Now, what happens if you have an organization which is staffed with a lot of expatriate labor that is on work permits, and you as a Caymanian come in and occupy a low-level job, but you have significant experience and qualifications that would make you an easy fit for promotion once you are familiar with the organization.
Mm-hmm.
It is quite possible, and it has been told to me, that these work permit employees will, in fact, and middle management of the same type, expatriate on work permits, will get together and make things difficult for you to first of all, maybe train you insufficiently, to hope that you will, for the want of a better word, screw up on the job, to where you will be terminated before the expiration of your probationary period. Or B, if that doesn't work, will try and give you the most unfavorable shifts that they can, in order again to kind of motivate you maybe not to hang around too long, or if the probationary period has expired, some have been told to go as far. I have been told some go as far as to manufacture complaints against Caymanian employees, which then get documented and prevent that employee then from applying for a promotion or a change of position for a period of time.
And as I listen to you, well, go ahead. Sorry,
so it becomes quite a gauntlet. You know, I'm not saying that is the norm. Okay, I mean, like I said at the very beginning, there is every kind of issue that you can think of is present in some form.
Right.
What it requires, and I think, and I know you want to comment something on that, but what I think is actually required is the watchful eye of the Labor Department.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. In that, when I started sort of introducing this comment, it was a few things just this week alone that have been shared, and you've struck a chord with a few of them. This notice of sort of constructive dismissal, you referred to the environment as being created at times, and I've heard it from a few, not just prospective applicants, but even just one instance, I guess a co-worker, as it were, where he is witnessed. Now, this was a foreign co-worker who was on a work permit, and he said, he can't believe this behavior is happening in his organization. What can I do? And when it came to the notion of overqualified, an applicant said, he applied to do a job, and just as an example, he has a PhD in neuroscience. That's not true, but let's just say that. But he wanted to work with this company, and the only job they had opening was, we need you to move the bottled water from A to B at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock. And he was glad to do it for the pay that was offered. And he said that first off, they told him, you have more to say, you only have that job, but I want to work here. This is where my training, this is where my interest is. Maybe later on, something would happen. You might move me up. And he couldn't get the job. Now, he said he spoke to, he didn't call it the Labor Department, and no response. There was nothing that they said they can do. They don't want to hire you because you're overqualified. He thought, well, I got referred to this job by, a friend who's on a permit, and he has a PhD in, molecular biology, and he's moving a water bottle. And they were saying, what a nice guy. He's looking how ambitious. He wants to work here, and he'll be willing to take this job. I'm willing to do the same thing, but I'm overqualified. How is that? The same thing, but two different perceptions.
Yes, and there is a number of pictures that do emerge from that, and unfortunately, none of them is very pleasant. I really don't want to elaborate on them right now. We can do that another time, but the overriding point is that it is a minefield.
Yeah.
Okay, and perhaps it is one of the reasons why government jobs enjoy such healthy amount of applications when they advertise something, because I think at least with government, generally speaking, unless something else gets in the way, there is a due process. And you can, at least most of the time, unless, we know in a small place, personalities will always have an influence, and we understand that. It's the same the world over. If you come from a small village, everyone will know you and your family, and maybe there's a misdeed that was done 50 years ago, and someone will remember it. And there was a situation that I was aware of with an intern doing some work during the summer, and couldn't work in a certain place because there had been a legal dispute between a post holder in that department and the parent of that intern. And it was felt that that would somehow infringe on the situation. I'm not even sure that the intern actually knew about the situation because it was many years ago. But, there are, in a small place, things like that can happen. So I do think that, the song we always sing in Cayman, whether it is traffic law or labor matters or what, we do need somebody to enforce the rules that are on the books.
Enforcement is crucial, whether it's traffic or not,
It's unpleasant. You don't like to stop your friend and say, look, you've been going 60 miles an hour, or you have blue lights in the front of your car when you know you're not supposed to have anything other than white, because you pretend to look like a police car at night, but somebody has to do it. And the same thing is for labor. You might have to go to some big employer and you have to say, look, I'm not sure if you know this is going on, but it has. I interviewed a young man who'd worked for one of the large employers in the island, and he had a supervisory position, and he had to tell somebody to do something which they were supposed to do but didn't like doing. Mm-hmm. And the fellow got upset and picked up a hammer and hit him with a hammer.
Wow.
And the young man actually left the employ of that employment because he felt he was not getting the support from upper management in dealing with that matter. Eventually, actually, he then did, maybe because he resigned, I don't know, the matter did come to, was brought before the court because he constituted as assault with bodily harm. But enforcement needs to happen, whether it is on the level of an organization that employs people. They need the top management should never be so aloof that they don't have the pulse of the organization.
Right. And as I recognize that you have other things, but just quickly with respect to the notion of enforcement, I go back to your comment that I like how you were so, respectful and diplomatic. Put it, the wheelchairs are leaving the grounds of the hospital.
Yeah.
But our society seems to have been going down a path where we look at the traffic laws, maybe it's a stop sign, and we don't obey it.
Right.
Forget about whether we're confused as to how to use a roundabout, but even just common courtesies, going through doors, taking wheelchairs off the hospital grounds. What is happening in our society where the behavior of all of us who live and work here seem to be less than respectful and respectable?
Well, here is the thing. Some years ago, I can't remember the exact social setting, but the conversation came up, between people that were visiting and others of us in the group that were resident. And the visitors said, it must be wonderful living in the Cayman Islands. Everything is goes relatively slowly, and, everything is so peaceful and everybody has time. And I remember somebody making the comment, say, well, it is very, very deceiving. Cayman is like a pond with ducks. So you have the ducks, they're floating on the water, very serene and composed, but under the surface they are paddling like hell. And I think a large part of the Cayman society that is not earning, $15,000 a month, but rather maybe have a family and have two incomes of $3,500 or $4,000 each per month, they are struggling to make the plans of life a reality.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're not acknowledging, and I appreciate you sharing that because we need to look at that more closely. Any other thoughts you want to leave with us?
No, I can leave you on that, and we can take it up another time.
Yes, always an honor to listen to you.
Right.
And I need to get to you about that other matter as well.
Okay.
All right. Have a good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, bye.
Okay. Thanks very much. With that, we'll pause and take a short break. I'll see if there's any chocolate on my desk. I don't know. There might just be. When we come back, more Talk Today.
CUC advises participants in the Green Iguana Culling Program to exercise extreme caution around the CUC's poles and power lines, especially when extracting iguanas from trees or branches that are in close proximity to poles and power lines. Participants should keep all objects such as poles, sticks, or hooks away from any CUC equipment to avoid any electrical contact. For further information, please contact our customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning-fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now, you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
The Cayman Islands Seafarers Association wishes to inform all members that there will be a general meeting on Tuesday, August 20th at 7:30 p.m. in the Seafarers Hall, 11 Victory Avenue, Prospect. There will be 3 buses from West Bay Town Hall, which leaves at 6 p.m. The Barnes bus route in Georgetown leaves the public library parking area at 6:45 p.m., stopping at the Cayman Compass Building and the Airport Fosters. The bus, marked Bobo $1 public transport and is blue in color, picks up from British Caymanian, Uncle Bill's, Walker's Road, Shedden Road, and Crew Road. The bus from East End pickups are the school parking lot, the gas station, and Wreck of the 10 Sails, starting at 5:45. Northside pickups are at Chisholm Store and the soccer field, starting at 6:15. The Bodden Town pickup is at Lorna's gas station at 6:45 and the Savannah pickups at gas station at 7 p.m.
The Elections Office continues the door-to-door verification on cruise port referendum petition signatures. Verifiers will visit assigned addresses Monday to Sunday between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. Officials are identifiable by their branded colored shirts and Election Office-issued ID cards. To confirm your signature, petitioners must present a valid ID and review and sign a provided verification form. The form will include your voter registration information and the proposition contained in the referendum.
Radio Cayman's premier health show,
For the Health of It, with Tara Bush,
is brought to you on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Proudly brought to you by the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association. For more information on how you can become a member or the benefits of the CICSA, please visit www.cicsa.ky. For your convenience, the CICSA offices are open on Mondays from 9 to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m.
For the Health of It, with Tara Bush.
Parents, do you know what time it is?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Well, it's not Christmas time, but school is nearly back in session. Is your child ready for the school year? Stop by Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village and pick up all of your child's stationery supplies. With 30% off selected items, you won't need to break the bank to get your little one prepared for the school year. You have enough to worry about. Make back to school a breeze with Savannah Pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
The best back-to-school sale is now at Reflections. Buy one, get one half price on all back-to-school shoes. Over 100 styles of your favorite brands: Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, and more. Back-to-school savings on shoes for toddlers, children, teens, and adults. Buy one pair, get the second pair half price. Or buy one pair of shoes and get a backpack half priced. The best back-to-school sale at Reflections, now located on Shedden Road, across from Napa Auto Parts, beside Mango Tree. Reflections.
Wednesday, August 21 at 4 p.m. You are invited to the grand opening of the new Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center on Seymour Drive. New opportunity, new beginnings, new home for Caymanian youth seeking career training and certification in high-demand trades. like automotive repairs, air conditioning, refrigeration, plumbing, electrical, metal fabrication, and more. Come witness, celebrate the cutting of the ribbon. At 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon, August 21, another milestone. The Superior Auto Apprenticeship Center, a not-for-profit program successfully training and creating employment alignment since 2010. Purpose and fulfillment.
Come out to the South Coast Bar and Grill this Friday, August 16th for the second annual Cayman Night. There will be live music by Rexa and the band, Bonafide, Wild Nights, Lame, DJ Blue, and DJ Archie of Unit Force. Also featuring Rena Connolly, Philip and Molly Ann Bryan, Andy Martin, and special appearances by Swanky. Music starts at 9 p.m. and goes until 2 a.m. Admission is donations to assist Stan Ebanks with medical expenses, so don't miss the second annual Cayman Night at South Coast Bar and Grill this Friday, August 16th from 9 p.m. until 2 a.m. with Cayman's top musicians and admission by donation. See you there.
The Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee is inviting you to our pageant on 17th August, 7 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton. The committee continues to empower young Caymanian ladies to become role models in the community. So come out and see our 6 beautiful contestants vie for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will represent us at the Miss Universe pageant. Get your tickets today at Funky Tangs and Sand Angels.
My good friend Ray.
Yes, sir. We're ready for another See What Saying. We're having Willa Farrington again, better known as Mr. Willa Farrington to us. He's one of the national heroes, and he's also a road.
Willa Farrington Drive.
Willa Farrington Drive, yeah.
Mr. Willa Farrington.
The Honorable National Hero, Willa Farrington. Okay, so join us this Friday, August the 16th, when we finish up a ride down Willa Farrington Lane. Or drive. Don't matter. We're not going to use our trafficators anyway, so.
See What I'm Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
So yeah, another character for See What I'm Saying. This Friday, August the 16th, we finish up with Willa Farrington Drive.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974.
See What I'm Saying.
See What I'm Saying.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. It is Open Line as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Likewise, if you so choose, we'll pay for it. Well, Flo will. They have generously donated a toll-free line, 1-800-534-8255. Then likewise, you can also WhatsApp 925-3261. What's on your mind? What is it that you want to talk about? Well, certainly call and share your thoughts with us. We want to hear from you. The conversation prior to the breakdown in relation to employment and the prospects of Caymanian employees want to find meaningful, engaged, employment that compensates them fairly, gives them a chance for upward mobility, that promotion and progress that they're looking for. But equally, the notion that the people who are being employed have the training, the skills, the qualifications and experience, but also that mindset, that ethos that they're working. Now, as the caller, I think very, very, very ably shared, this is a minefield. There are a lot of things that are happening in our workplaces and a lot of challenges, from allegations of, sort of constructive dismissal to scenarios where people perhaps are conspiring to deny either employment or promotion, to perhaps even making false allegations, to sometimes, as we've seen over the years, hopefully hasn't happened that often, and if we've seen it by the few times it's come to light, that it isn't an instance of a lack of enforcement, but it actually is because it isn't happening often. But people who have purported to have certain experience, certain qualifications, and when it's checked properly, finds out that they have been fraudulent on their applications, whether they're working in the financial services sector or otherwise. Now, those are the challenges sometimes that you see. But what is disconcerting is when you hear from those individuals who have a certain level of education, who have invested heavily, and now they're sharing that they can't find employment. Even they've got their bachelor's and master's, they're looking to enter the workplace, or they're returning from university. Just like the high school grad who's shared, I can't even find an entry-level job, to the constant comments that people have shared relative to their concerns that they're being told they're overqualified. But what about that individual who, for whatever reason, it may be a prolonged illness, it may be that they perhaps have run afoul of the law and they're sharing they can't find employment. Nobody's willing to give them an opportunity. Now, those of us who subscribe to the notion you make your bed, you lie in it. But then how do we make sure that our people are constantly, giving the encouragement, the opportunities, that they're giving the guidance, that they're instructed accordingly, that there's a level of discipline that is expected. Now, if we think of the consequence of a society sending a very clear message that your age, experience, your expertise, and your education isn't really going to matter whether you get employed or not, and whether that's going to pay where you can enjoy a certain standard of living. How long is it going to take, you think, before those people feel despondent and discouraged? What would happen if they decide to respond one way as opposed to, thus far, what seems to have been a fairly gentle, amenable way? Now, should we become concerned for whatever reason that if we're not careful, we could see a level of behavior in our streets, in our offices? We're seeing some of the things being manifested in our communities or at other gatherings. Is there a correlation between those occurrences and how people are feeling relative to their self-worth, their ability to gain employment? Now, I say this only from my own perspective. I think we need to be willing to accept responsibility for our actions and be prepared to be held accountable, whether we're the principal at the school, or whether we're the pupil, or whether we're the senior elected politician in the country, or we're that intern who is, just fresh out of school and looking to learn the ropes. Now, in all instances, we should at least be provided with some level of instruction, guidance, assistance, direction, counsel, and the like, so that we can find our way instead of being set up to fail, which oftentimes we see happen. Some of us are, very, very much prepared to accept a token appointment, because whether we're fronting for a developer and we pretend that it is our funds, or whether we are taking a nice corner office with a huge pay and title, but we don't really do any work. We just happen to be the face and pretend. What does it say? A lot of us are posers. Thankfully, there are others who stand their ground, who live by a certain ethos, whose convictions are such that we believe that we should earn or keep. We should also be able to keep what we earn to some extent. So maybe working here without the taxation that is direct maybe encourages us to remain. But think 5 or 50 years down the road, where will our people be? Where is that standard and quality of life that our society should enjoy? Well, let's hear from you. 949-8037, 949-6990. Or let's have you share your thoughts with us via our WhatsApp, 925-3261. And if you wish to use the Flow toll-free line, it's 1-800-534-8255. A lot of ways to get us. All lead to the same roads, right into the Radio Cayman studio, and you can share your thoughts with us. Now, I was sharing earlier the note that we had received from someone who was speaking with respect to the issue of the government's sort of increased public campaign for the port. Well, let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, Dwayne. Sorry to call you back and take up more of your time, but
not at all, sir.
I wanted one message that Caymanians should heed. Learn to stick together.
Yeah.
Learn to support each other. People that are from other places recognize that shortcoming in our people. They're exploiting it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And your comment, actually, someone else had just sent in, says Caymanians, refuse to stand up to our government. They're afraid to be, blacklisted and ostracized, and said until we realize that money isn't everything, we'll always be held hostage to it. So
as long as you have individual fighters, they will be suffer the consequences. If the majority sticks together and backs each other up, then it will go away because there'll be too many to blacklist and ostracize.
Well, we have to be willing to stand together, right?
Absolutely.
How do we get there, though? I mean, there was a time that we did.
It could be created. It could be created, but I have to win the jackpot of the big lottery in order to make it happen. I think we need to start at an early age, and I'm sure a group of people that understood what it meant to work together and back each other up were men or women that went to sea. And especially on the older vessels where very few things were a one-man job. Most of them required the joint efforts of more than one. And if one person tried to do it alone, it would multiply the risk of loss of life or limb. And I do think that those people understood the importance of teamwork, the importance of working together, and it could be recreated, but it would be a Herculean effort because not only do you fight the loss of that memory, but you're also fighting technology today that makes people more insular, where they do not have to actually physically interact with each other to be in contact, where they can do it electronically from their bedroom or wherever, and are not required to go and sit on the porch of their neighbors to while away the evening hours. Instead, they can watch television. So you're also fighting that phenomena, and of course, the younger generations are even more into wireless technology and utilizing all that offers. So it makes it more complicated. But in the workplace, as long as the workplace requires the physical presence of the individual, they would benefit if they could get together, because you now have many big organizations, big employers in the Cayman context that have many more expatriate employees than Caymanians. And the Caymanians are actually in a minority position in the workplace, and to assert themselves on an individual level is not very successful.
They're daunting sometimes, huh?
Daunting, yes, but achievable, along with the support of the genuine support from the powers that be, with supplying labor inspectors and enforcement of the rules, that sort of thing.
So important. Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
All right, enjoy it. And I commend that caller, like the gentleman from the back, for their courage and the conviction to see the greater good, and for their comments that they share. It helps to inform us. And, just like the caller from the back who said, hey, the TV station, the channels are not coming in. If that's fixed, everybody will be able to enjoy it. Nobody wants to say anything. He says it. Like he said with the wheelchairs. If wheelchairs are, wouldn't it be nice if tomorrow there are 2 or 3 or 10 or as many that are needed? Wheelchairs back at the Faith Hospital would not benefit all that need it. We need to thank those who champion the public good. Let's pause and take a break, though. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman. Headline.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Cayman Islands-based developer Dart Real Estate announced today that the global coffee company Starbucks arrived in Cayman Bay and becomes the newest addition to its more than 15 food and beverage venues at Cayman Bay. Starbucks joins Cayman Bay during a period of growth and development and opened its doors today next to independent bookstore Books and Books along the Paseo. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. A lookalike of Friends actor David Schwimmer has been jailed for theft and fraud offenses. A CCTV image of 36-year-old Abdullah Husseini clutching a crate of beer went viral after police posted it in an appeal to trace him in October. Husseini, who was described in court as a wandering nomadic thief, used a stolen bank card to make or attempt to make fraudulent purchases in Blackpool. He was jailed for 9 months at Burnley Crown Court today. And a 9-year-old girl is suing a centuries-old Berlin boys choir, arguing that her bid to join was only rejected because of her gender, in a case that has sparked debate over equal rights versus artistic freedom. The State and Cathedral Choir is one of the most renowned boys' choirs in Germany, founded in 1465. Over its 554 years, it has never admitted any girls. The girl, whose identity was not revealed to protect her privacy, auditioned with the choir in March and was rejected, according to the Berlin Administrative Court that is to rule on the suit tomorrow. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. It is Open Line on this truly terrific Thursday as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. 949-8037 or 949-6990. Call and share your thoughts with us. And it's amazing, I think, as some of the callers have shared, this idea that within the country, the WhatsApp message reads that we got to stand together. That came in almost as the caller was sharing, that the failure of the people to stand together. So, questions: what is it that is deterring us from standing up together? And then what do we do about it? Not talking about protesting and violent demonstrations, but standing up for the greater good. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I am very thankful. I can't help this. I have to call.
Yes, please.
Almost every time I get a lunch break, I listen to your program. And I keep hearing this request going over because of the doc that people are opposing.
Mm-hmm.
How that, they're making sure they're verifying your signature, they're verifying that you're a Caymanian in order for it to be right. I can't stop thinking, whoever allows two men that are not Caymanians to come in here, and the law had to be changed to accommodate them. They're not Caymanians, but they have more rights in Cayman than the poor Caymanians do. I got it. Just the last part of what the gentleman said, Caymanians need to unite and stand together, and that is so true. But how sad that someone who's not from here have more rights here than you who are a Caymanian have to be scrutinized right down to prove that you're a Caymanian. How sad that in your own country you don't have any value. That's my thought. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for sharing. And my question is, how do we get to that point where we start to recognize that we were respectful of those who come and live and visit and but recognize, as you shared, those of us who are voters in particular, have that level of right and respect, and for whom the government of the day is willing to listen to their, not just their complaints, but maybe their concerns about certain things. Well, the question is, do we elect and appoint people and let them get on with it? Or do we retain a sense of involvement to be not just informed but involved and be prepared to hold others accountable as they accept their level of responsibility? And as the caller just shared, the comments that we heard, in particular the one that was shared earlier to us, was that you have on one hand a government, whether it's this one or ones prior, who believe that they're going to do something that is in the interest of the government. And he said, as trying to acknowledge it, that put aside whatever conjecture, allegations that, oh yes, they're only doing this because of that, and the next thing. How do we look at it from the perspective that it's the greater good? Hey, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, good afternoon, Sterling. How are you doing?
Hey, my good friend. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm pretty good. Just listening to your open mic segment, and thought I would call in to contribute a little bit of information. That's all.
Oh, man. Your contributions are always welcome, and certainly always to the point. So that chair should have your name played on it, man.
Well, I hope so one day. That way I can come in there on a regular basis.
Well, maybe.
One of the things, since it's open mic, obviously, I'll take advantage of that and talk about this particular issue.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the cruise port and these other things are, one of the topical issues that are being discussed within our society. And I think that rightfully so, because not everybody have the time to sit down and pay attention to every single detail. Certainly, I do my best to try to create awareness in areas so that we could be properly informed as to what the real situation is. But I just want to share an experience I had this morning with the Support Our Tourism webpage on Facebook. And there was a voice ad on there that said that, and anyone who wants to check it can go on to that page and see it because it's a public platform. The voice ad was saying that the port will be paid for by cruise passengers and the people who use the port, and that the government won't have to, and it won't come out of the government's pocket, and the people of the Cayman Islands won't have to pay for it. So I posted a question on that page, and to make a long story short, I asked a host of questions and concerns in terms of financing. What happens if there's not enough cruise passengers that come annually in order to pay back the debt? Do they increase over-the-war fees? Do they increase goods and fees on goods and whatnot that we consume? These are just some of the questions. I'm not saying that that's the case. I was asking that question. We want to know the details of the contract that would be signed once the government gets to go ahead. They responded and said that a portion of the fees will be paid back for the port. So again, that tells me and it creates even greater concern. I think that it's important that our Caymanian people understand that there are no free rides, and that this port is nobody's building this port for free. The two cruise lines that have maneuvered their way into being a part of the financing package is really unfortunate, because I thought that if the government and the people of the Cayman Islands weren't in the financial position to build this port, from a financial standpoint, because the FFR prevents us from building it. One key thing that stuck out to me, one is there a valid enough reason why we build in the port? And two, why haven't we encouraged more cruise lines to be a part of the financing package, so that way they will also too have an opportunity to call to that port whenever the slips are available? But we've seen now where the government has said in the past, prior to announcing the preferred bidder, which is Verde Isle Group with Royal Caribbean and Carnival and a host of other people being a part of this group. Now we've seen where the government has taken the position, or where Carnival and Royal have made it very clear that they didn't want any other cruise lines being involved with the financing package, which is why it's only the two of them. And it's funny because the government was very happy and spent money on ads advertising that the Disney Cruise Line had come on board, the MSC or the MCS or whatever it's called, had came on board, and some other cruise lines were committed to financing it. Then yet when the preferred bidder was announced, we see that those individuals were not included in the financing package. So it's hard for support our tourism to advocate all of these things when in absence of the details of the negotiations is still at large. We don't have those details. We don't know what's going to happen if we're not able to pay back the loan. So these are legitimate questions. We don't want to be stuck with a situation where we give up a port that we currently makes $25 to $30 million a year now for 25 years, and there are some stipulations within the agreement that states that if the cruise passengers numbers are not adequate enough to pay back the ROI, to pay back the investment, to have the return of investment, then they will have an opportunity to increase over the wharf fees, which increases the cost of living to the consumer.
If I could ask you though, there's two things in relation to that. Do you know, and I confess I don't have it to hand, whether there's any document or anything publicly shared that, like, just as an analogy, like how CUC's agreement was that they had a guaranteed, return. First was 15 and now it's whatever it is.
Right.
Will this port deal also have a similar minimum return that is 5% or 50% or whatever it is? Is that anywhere?
Well, I don't think they have anything like that made public. But what I think it's actually vice versa.
Mm.
In terms of guarantees, I think the government should have negotiated a guarantee head count in terms of passengers being brought, because one would assume that if we are traveling down the road to have a public-private partnership to build this pier, right, and individuals who are being a part of the financing model understands that we need the head tax per passenger in order to repay this bill. And two of those individuals who are part of the partnership are the two largest carriers of cruise passengers globally. You would think that the government would have been in a better negotiating position and saying, okay, if we allow or if we accept you to be a part of the financing model, then we also would expect a guarantee that X amount of passengers are brought to our shores via their cruise line in order to pay back this investment. And if they fall short, that the cruise line could then subsidize.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we won't be caught in a vulnerable or reliable position where we're not generating enough cruise passengers to pay back the debt, and then now we have to go and further tax the goods that are coming across the wharf, which essentially drives up the cost of living, which essentially fall on the backs of the hardworking people of the Cayman Islands that has nothing to do with the port or benefit nothing from the port or tours. So that's the greater concern.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that,
go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
With that, now, just for clarity, is it your understanding then too that the money that the government receives from that, sort of head tax, each passenger on a manifest pays, that for this period of time, whether it's 25 years or 50 years, that the majority, if not all of that, is going to be diverted to finance the port, so it's not going to be available to fund the country's operations?
Well, I think from what I understand, that is a portion of the head tax will go to the repayment of the bill, plus whatever monies that was generated by tender services.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that in itself has its own personal issues, because number one, if we got 6 ships in our port and we can only accommodate 4, then we still have 2 ships on tender, which means monies is still being generated by tender services.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if we assume that we're collecting all monies that was collected by tenders, then I think we are assuming the wrong thing.
Right.
Because it would only be the tender money that is being substituted for a pair for the ships that are using the pair, which are Royal Caribbean and Carnival Cruise Line, who have who have the rights to dock on the pier that they are financing.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't say that we're still collecting money for ships that are being tendered, and that money is going to now be unless port authorities buy in their own tenders and going to be charging, and then that money is after operation cost comes out goes towards it. Now maybe that's part of the plan. I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that.
Right, but even so, then that money.
Even so, it still leaves a very concerning question, and that is, what happens when there are not enough passengers due to bad weather or intermittent weather that happens at a moment's notice? Is there a mechanism within the financing package that says, well, if 2 million people are needed a year to meet the ROI, and we only got 1.5, how do we fill the gap? Do we fall in arrears? Do we allow them to increase the wharf fees? Or does the government take it from the GDP and subsidize? I don't know.
Right. Well, let me ask then, just not necessarily for you only, but just perhaps for my edification, two things that become evident recently. Obviously, we can't look down the road and predict what's going to happen in 5 years, much less in 25 years. But seemingly, recent reports of the U.S. indicating that these economic indicators suggest that potentially there could be some concerns with respect to the U.S. economy, and with our sort of reliance on the visitor and the cruise line. What do you make of that, in terms of...
Well, I think it's deja vu, Sterling. I'll tell you why. Because the last time, ironically, that the planet was on a crash course for global recession, the premier who was then the Minister of Education, and his government was forewarned that there was a recession coming, but yet we embarked on large capital projects which caused the FFR to come in place. And here we know we have fair warning once again that there is a potential global recession on the horizon, yet we are embarking on the largest or the single largest capital project in Cayman's history, one of which we are not going to be in control of for 25 years, which is really concerning, because if there is a global recession a year down the road or 2 years down the road after the port is built, potentially, and there's a global recession and people are not going on cruises, we're going to be left holding the bag.
Well, good point. If I can ask you, though, again, not necessarily expecting you, but we know that during this process there are some who are on one side, hey, let's get the port, and others on the side, well, let's maybe look at it closer, right? So there's always that. The allegations that the people who were opposed to it were being paid or somehow were encouraged, somehow, compensated for having their view. But I got a couple of individuals who have shared a lot recently, this week alone, I've lost count, who've expressed concern that seemingly it's been alleged that there are these, I put it to you how I got it, these paid government mouthpieces that are out there spinning the propaganda machine. The government are they, bringing people on to pay them, reward them, somehow incentivize them to be their advocates. And they thought, isn't that kind of goes against the grain of democracy in this sense? Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, certainly I have a lot of thoughts on that. But the reality is, Sterling, is that it's unfortunate that we have a government who's elected by the people who are not for the people. Because if 6,000 registered voters aren't convincing enough for those who sit in elected parliament, understanding that in 2021 that they would have to be either re-elected or not brought back to the table, then I think it's unfortunate that those people doesn't have that sort of mindset, thinking that far down the future. It speaks volumes on their ability to run a country. Now, what I will say that it's unfortunate that we have solicited the help of certain government workers and people within the civil servants to come out and be the mouthpieces of this particular drive. Because, Sterling, I can understand if our cruise industry was struggling. I can understand if our cruise industry was declining in numbers in an alarming rate. I can understand if people weren't coming to our shores. I can understand that if every other jurisdiction in the Caribbean that has cruise berthing or cruise businesses, if they were all flourishing and for some reason we weren't, I can understand if all these things were at play, why our government will be so hell-bent on billing a payer or trying to enhance our services to attract people back here. But that is not the case. In fact, it's quite contrary to that. We have record-breaking numbers year after year. We have the most unique environment in the Caribbean. Why are we trying to be like everybody else in the Caribbean when the one thing we boast above all is that we're unique to them? We have something that they don't. And I just can't understand for the life of me why any member of government would be sold on the idea that Roatan got a pair and Jamaica got a pair and St. Lucia got a pair and this one got a pair and Nassau got a pair. So we need to get a pair too. I want somebody, and I beg somebody, to go down to Nassau, Bahamas, and go into that harbor where that pier is and take an underwater dive trip or even a submarine trip, which I think is prohibited now because of the dangers of the cloudy water. The problem is, Sterling, is that we don't need to become like the rest of the Caribbean in order to have crews call into our port. The Minister of Tourism and the Deputy Premier have misled the people of this country by stating that we need to be competitive. The Cayman Islands do not need to be competitive with cruise passengers. We are not in a competition for cruise passengers. We are part of an itinerary of cruise ships who rely on the Caribbean basin for 60% of their global revenue generation. Those are the facts. I didn't make those up. Those are the facts that are there for all to see. The reality is that we're not building a pier to bring more passengers. We're not building a pier to enhance the passenger experience. We're not building a pier to reduce the risk of any mishap, because in 45, almost 50 years, we may have had 3 instances on that pier that didn't have any physical damage to anyone to a magnitude where it caused global alarm. Number 2, we're building that pier for personal self-satisfaction and self-serving reasons. And the reality is that if certain individuals didn't have businesses or infrastructure and certain things built in the Georgetown area, we wouldn't be hearing this argument about building it in the Georgetown area or building it, period. You know, we got to call a spade a spade. The people of the Cayman Islands is about to take on the largest capital works project in its history, and the government is trying to sell us with 900 potential jobs. With all of these stories about what the benefits are, I want to ask the government this one question. Have they negotiated with the cruise lines and all cruise lines that every single tour operator in our country and bus driver and taxi driver was at the table and they negotiated a rate that they're all happy with for pre-booked tours, and that everybody is included in the pre-booked tour operation, and that they all benefit equally, as opposed to some people being singled out and getting it and the other people are not? Are we creating another Falmouth where people got to be on the outside of the gate hollering in for a stray tourist to get a tour? That shouldn't happen in a small society like Cayman. Can the government answer that question? Are all tours and operations within in and out of the cruise industry, is it across the board, and is everybody benefiting from it that is in that line of work? That's what I want to know.
All right, man. Well, thanks for asking the question. All right. Talk to you soon again. All right, one final break and one call after. Please stay tuned.
It was great catching up with you. I've got to go pick up my prescription at Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor.
But you live in West Bay. Do you know you can go to Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor Square, their second location?
Really?
Yes, and if you go to healthcarepharmacy.ky, you can refill and transfer your prescriptions online and collect at either location.
That's so convenient. Thanks. I'm off to Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor Square.
Healthcare Pharmacy Grand Harbor, Healthcare Pharmacy Governor Square, and always healthcarepharmacy.ky.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner, think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Cayman is one step closer to joining our Caribbean neighbors in offering world-class berthing facilities to secure the success of our cruise tourism industry, providing jobs and opportunities for our people for decades to come. This is a win for Cayman.
Looking bright. Support our port, support our tourism.
The breeze
Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th, and all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher. The Breeze Fusion 5K 10K walk run Saturday, November 2nd.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you very much for being a part of the discussion, and greatest apology to that caller who could not stick around. Well, the phone lines are always open. I want to invite you to share with us, certainly here on Talk Today, and when you call our morning program for the record with Mr. Art, be a part of that discussion. Tomorrow's Friday already. I'll join in tomorrow morning for that. Be with Ray Banker when we come back in the afternoon to be able to do our monthly see what I'm saying. He puts a lot of work into it, man, and it's good to be able to highlight the country and its people. In highlighting our country and its people, maybe you allow me to be one of the first to publicly offer public congratulations to Mr. Andre Ebanks for being appointed the new representative in the UK and Europe, taking up his post next month. He was on with us not long ago, talking about the good work in the ministry as a Deputy Chief Officer, seeing some of the changes that are taking place relative to working with our elderly, some of the needs of those who find themselves at the lower economic spectrum. So, intelligent, ambitious young man, served the country well. I think he's going to be well positioned. So, as he takes up his post for 3 years over in the UK, I hope the weather will be a lot better. And the food wouldn't be as, young Giovanni shared as he finds it in school up there, seasoned with salt and disappointment. So hopefully Andre continues to enjoy a good favor. If you don't love me, again, very heartfelt public congrats on his appointment. Now, please always stay tuned to Radio Cayman, get informed, become involved in our society, and be prepared to champion the things that you believe in, but equally challenge the things that you think needs an advocate. And if we can do so respectfully, hey, doesn't mean because we disagree that we have to be vitriolic. But it doesn't mean that you have to sit down and let people walk all over you, because then, well, what does that make us? So let's get up and stand up. Be prepared to advocate for the things that you believe are in the best interest of the country and for the greater good. As I stare through my looking glass and I see the good face of DJ Lynn, I have to wonder sometimes, even in Savannah, they must make them like they do in West Bay. So Lynn, if you could get the mic, I know you would say, hey, let's all be healthy. Let's all look at what's well. I'm so glad that they didn't give him the microphone, but you can join him. Are you doing the show this afternoon, Lynn, at 3 o'clock? So he can get his chance to get back up midday. Who knows what he'll say about us? Hey, you have to stay tuned. Come on, Lynn. Let's hear you. All right, to our listeners, thank you for what you do for this country. Let's work together to make it better. If I could, perhaps on behalf of our callers, and if it'll be taken as the caller intended, not to insult, but to actually encourage, to inspire others to maybe feel incentivized. And there's two issues that he expressed concern. One was the television programming on the BRAC. Some of the channels seem to be interrupted. And as I take a minute and 47 seconds more into overtime, Lynn reminds me he wants his time. So the television company and those technicians, and perhaps just a simple thing, if you could, with the greatest respect, attend to it so that the viewers on the BRAC have the channels. Doesn't mean because I'm not a proponent of television that I don't think that those who access it should be able to do so as they wish. And then secondly, he's expressed concern that maybe there are insufficient wheelchairs available for those at the Faith Hospital in the BRAC. Could that be an issue that is immediately addressed? And as he shared, as he goes tomorrow, there'll be ample wheelchairs there. Now, caller prior shared that here at the Georgetown Hospital, that there's a challenge with the wheelchairs walking off. They got wheels and they're rolling away. Well, if we are part of the responsible for helping those wheelchairs to leave, let's check our spirits and find out what is it we're doing in this country. Let's not be like that. Let's see if we can be better. Until tomorrow, definitely be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.